Hey guys, Eric Odom here with libertynews.com, and going to start doing some daily vlogs. Maybe not daily, actually. It'll probably be a couple times a week from here in my Chicago office, publishing them probably straight to Facebook through the Stand for Faith and Freedom page, the Liberty News page, as well as my personal page for Eric Odom on Facebook. And I've got a lot of requests to start doing videos like this, and we definitely want to start doing a lot more videos. So we're going to be doing some studio type videos, as well as these sort of just vlogs where I get to rant and rave and do what I normally do through Liberty News and Facebook, but in sort of a conversation with you in video format. So today I just really, I wanted to put up a video because this Hillary Clinton Benghazi thing is just, it's just unbelievable. It literally is astounding to me that so much media, mainstream media as well as alternative media, has completely ignored her responsibility in what's happening with ISIS in the Middle East. We see so many narratives. Even The Blaze the other day had a column out which said, you can't blame Obama for the rise of ISIS in Iraq. And that sort of narrative is completely off base. Then you have Charles Krauthammer, who's, you know, by a lot of conservatives, according to a lot of conservatives, one of the smartest men in the room, talking about Hillary Clinton and whose fault is it with what's happening with ISIS in Iraq. Did we pull troops out too soon? Are we not putting the right troops back in, and a right amount of troops back in? And it's just stunning to me that so much media and so many conservatives, like The Blaze and all of these, and Glenn Beck has talked about this, and I don't listen to Glenn Beck daily, but I occasionally catch some of his stuff. Not that I disagree with Glenn Beck. I think he's right on the money with much of what he says. I just don't have time for it every day. But a lot of the writers at The Blaze completely missed this, that Hillary, and we published a story about this, actually wrote it yesterday. It's had 1,000 shares. It's gotten some decent traffics on libertynews.com, titled, "This is Why We Will Never See Hillary Clinton's State Department Emails." And basically the story that I lay out, and I've written about this for 2.5 years. In fact, we were basically vindicated this week on our allegation that the Benghazi facility, which was not a consulate — I still see mainstream media calling it a consulate today. It was not a consulate. It was a State Department facility. There was no, or sorry, it wasn't an embassy. You couldn't go get passport services or things like that. It was just a State Department facility. And attached to that State Department facility was a CIA annex. There was another CIA facility 1.2 miles, I believe it was about 1.2 miles from that State Department facility, where defense or CIA officials have admitted that that facility was used to monitor the movement of weapons after the fall of Gaddafi. So when you understand the background of Christopher Stevens, and he was in Libya as the chief of mission for the State Department from 2007 to 2009, I believe. He was the chief executive for the State Department for the State Department's mission in Libya. So he was there and had all the contacts and had networked across the Middle East. He spoke a little bit of Arabic. He spoke French, spoke English. He was there basically in charge of the State Department's operations throughout Libya while the civil war was happening and during the fall of Gaddafi. And he was he didn't just work closely with the Libyan Islamic group that was one of the key militant forces against Gaddafi, but he was actually very close to the commander of that entity. And then that entity became, after the national, I believe it's called National Transition Council, was established to be the government in Libya after Gaddafi fell, with the help of the State Department. And that Islamic Al-Qaeda-backed group, basically it was Al-Qaeda essentially, became much of the military force for the National Transition Council. After Christopher Stevens was the was the chief of mission in Libya for the State Department. He was moved to be the special representative to the National Transition Council. So he continued working closely with these al-Qaeda groups that were now the military force for Libya before it's the very end of his tenure as the special representative to the National Transition Council. I believe it was in November of 2011. Basically, this commander for this Libyan militant Islamic Front, or whatever it is, the group that became the military for the National Transition Council, was dispatched by the National Transition Council to meet with the Free Syrian Army. And those discussions were how to move and transfer the arms that had been compiled after the fall of Gaddafi. And these are weapon stockpiles, and it's hard to imagine how many weapons and arms and heavy military-grade arms, just thousands and thousands of weapons after the fall of Gaddafi were available to be sent somewhere. So this commander was dispatched by the National Transition Council to meet with the Free Syrian Army. And during this meeting, he offered to help transfer weapons, to help transfer al-Qaeda Islamic militants, and basically move the infrastructure that took out Gaddafi into, well, it was U.S.-backed infrastructure, move that into Syria and help fight Assad with the Free Syrian Army. During that month, the same month that meeting took place, Christopher Stevens sort of vanished from the scene. He didn't arrive until it was 4 or 5 months later when he emerged and was named the U.S. ambassador for Libya. So at the time that he was named U.S. ambassador, he had, outside of Hillary Clinton herself, he had the most knowledge of who the commanders were, what they were doing, where they were going, who they were meeting with, where all the arms were. He was working with the CIA. The CIA admits that they were monitoring all these arms, and even admits that they watched them be moved out of Libya into Syria. But Christopher Stevens and Hillary Clinton are the two people who knew the whole picture. They knew everything. So it's just astonishing to me that the CIA and the State Department is basically acknowledging that Christopher Stevens and the CIA knew all the radical Islamic players, knew that they were going into Syria, and knew that all of the weapons and arms were going from Libya into Syria. So they know how ISIS was created. And we've written about the Free Syrian Army as well. Free Syrian Army became ISIS. Most of it became ISIS as we know it today. And ISIS, which is, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, has successfully completely deleted the border between Syria and Iraq. So we know why Iraq is in chaos. It's not in chaos because of a troop withdrawal or because there were too many troops. It's in chaos because we helped and watched the birth of ISIS from Libya, which was al-Qaeda, to Syria, which was the Free Syrian Army. So you basically married al-Qaeda and the Free Syrian Army, and you armed them. We also sent hundreds of millions of dollars, we've written about that as well, in to help the Free Syrian Army. So we funded, we helped bring in manpower, and we armed what is now ISIS. Yet Charles Krauthammer is saying, well, we removed troops too quick and we're not applying. The Blaze is saying, well, it's not, is it Bush's fault or is it Obama's fault? The troop withdrawal can't be fully blamed on Obama. This is all Hillary Clinton, the State Department, and the CIA. They are responsible for all of this. And it's stunning to me that this former Secretary of State, who has the blood on her hands of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East who were tortured, raped, slaughtered, burned to death, hung, beheaded. That's on her hands. And it just stuns me that she is still considered a serious candidate for president of the United States. This is someone who should be in prison. And you've got all the mainstream media and these conservatives and alternative media just completely avoiding the truth, which is at the core of this whole story. And that's that Hillary Clinton's State Department for years enabled and helped create and give birth to ISIS. But nobody's talking about that, because then you would actually have to hold someone like her responsible. And what would that mean? All we're talking about is semantics. You know, too many troops, not enough troops. We're not bombing the right places. Ramadi fell. What could we have done differently? How about not created ISIS? How about not sent hundreds of millions of tax dollars in there? How about not had Christopher Stevens working to help with the CIA to help oversee the shipment of arms from Libya through Turkey into Syria? It's just astonishing to me that this is happening. So I encourage you to, when you see these types of comments, these incorrect narratives on Facebook and through social media, correct them. Jump in there and say, look, this is the important thing, because Hillary Clinton is a serious contender for president. And as shocking as that is to say, it's a reality. And she is she's responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. She used taxpayer dollars. She used the U.S. government. She used Gaddafi's weapons and arms. She used the CIA, or worked with the CIA, to go in and create ISIS in Syria to try and take down Assad. And ISIS now, of course, is moving into Lebanon, into Jordan, into Iraq, and fighting all across the Middle East. They want Saudi Arabia. So this is a cancer, an evil, dark, murderous cancer spreading across the Middle East that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama created. And this person is running for president and is being taken seriously. So when you see these narratives of troop withdrawals versus needing more troops in, and whose fault is it that Iraq is falling, it's Hillary Clinton's fault. It's our State Department for years. We did this. That's who's at fault. But you don't see Charles Krauthammer and all these mainstream media, Fox News, Brett Baer. None of them talk about this. None of them point fingers at who's really to blame. Because if they did, she would go to prison. So it's kind of like the bankers. You know, the bankers are not going to go to prison because the people that would need to send them to prison are bankers. Bank regulators. So that's why no one goes to prison. Well, it's the same situation here. So anyway, that's my rant for today. Please check it out on libertynews.com if you haven't already. And hopefully I'll be able to put up more videos like this, just little vlog updates to Facebook. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for supporting the pages. This is Odom with libertynews.com, and talk to you next time.